Well, we are so excited to be joined today by Dana Omari of the Instagram account that I think is helping keep women sane everywhere and men at IG Famous by Dana. Dana, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my
I
gosh, of
just have to
course.
say really quick, I don't think I recommend an Instagram account more than yours to friends, to strangers on the street. Literally, it is just doing the world such a service.
Oh, I love that. I appreciate that so much. I feel like I'm doing something and it helps me, honestly. There are times where I need to like be grounded a little, you know? Like,
Well, I think that's exactly the issue that a lot of us face is we get on social media and we can get this really distorted idea. Like we can get a really poor perception of our own selves by looking at other people's filtered and then also usually it's a filter on top of cosmetics, surgery, face and body. And
mhm.
so what your account does is it really shows people, it kind of like lifts the veil on that and shows people what these celebrities are getting done. Celebrities that, your boyfriend might say, "Oh, Kendall Jenner, she's so gorgeous and I just love how natural she is." And we can point them to IG Famous by Dana, to Dana's account where you can see that no, Kendall Jenner has probably had at least 10 procedures. She's had gorgeous work and already started out beautiful, but is in no way even near natural. And so I think that what you do is provide transparency on beauty procedures and it really just helps all women and men ground themselves when they watch your content and realize the sheer amount of work that is going into making celebrities look the way that they do.
Thank you. Yeah, they do a lot of things and as they should because look at how we pick them apart every day. We, talk about their faces, their bodies. They're seeing themselves on screen, they're seeing themselves in paparazzi shots, just things that are probably going to go, "Oh, maybe if I just had a little bit more of a chin, that wouldn't look that way." And it's really unfortunate that it happens, but, if you had the money and everyone was looking at you all the time, you would do it too, I think.
No, I mean, I was thinking the other day about how, like, for a single bikini shot, there might be 300 photos from the exact same setting, and one photo is chosen from one specific angle. And I was thinking about how violating it would be if I like went to the beach, and if all of these DSLR high res, poor lighting photos of myself were hitting the internet, I also would be, hitting Dr. Jason Diamond's office in Beverly Hills to do whatever is humanly possible to look as good as possible. So I totally understand where they're coming from and I completely agree. But I also think that as consumers of images of these people, it's important to be knowledgeable about what goes in to look the way that they do.
I agree. And I know this isn't exactly what we were about to talk about, and I'm so excited about the topics. But this morning, Olivia Culpo liked my picture of her before and afters. And so she's been pretty open about her work. And she had like a story set where she says, "I love talking about my work. Oh, I've had this, I've had that, I've done this." I don't know if she's literally listed every single thing she's ever done, but I love that. And then when I saw that she'd liked my post this morning, I was like, I couldn't love you more.
No, that's actually amazing. Someone responded to one of our stories about her and they're like, "How is her face so sculpted?" I just thought by the hands of many surgeons most likely. But that's amazing that she like fully is transparent about it.
Yes, so she's been sculpted by many surgeons, talented providers, and she talks about it. And look at that, like how relatable that is, how amazing that is. If every celebrity was like that, first of all, I wouldn't even have a page anymore. I
Right.
feel like it would be like, what's the point? There's nothing to have to kind of educate on because everyone would be really knowledgeable about what these things are since everyone's so open about it. But I was so happy. I knew she was open. Obviously, the post was about her being open about it. But then for her to
Mhm.
just come in and like it, I fangirled. I fangirled.
Yeah, it really is a cool thing.
Something that I think about a lot is we live in this world where, yeah, celebrities oftentimes are not transparent about every procedure they get done. And, obviously they don't have to show us their medical records and say, this is when I got all these nips and tucks and, all these facelifts or whatever. But I think that the real issue is when you have celebrities like Kim Kardashian and others who basically say, I don't do anything or I just do some very light touch skincare, essentially. And
Right.
that's when it starts to feel really nefarious and like you're selling the public and so many young women and men a lie.
I agree. And especially with the Kardashians, then they usually turn around and sell us a specific product that they're convincing us is going to do that.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't get my lips done. It's my lip kit. My body, like I work out, I eat whatever, but it's the Skims, it's the
Mhm.
corset that I wear. That's all it is, guys. And then you buy it and you're like, why doesn't it do the same for me?
Right.
Mhm. No, and I think that we're on some level maybe accustomed to these kind of lies in marketing, but it gets more insidious when you can put a face to it. And I also think it gets, and the kind of getting to what I really am so excited to talk about today is the influencers on Instagram, the beauty influencers who are selling courses on how to naturally lift your brows and get rid of jowls through face, HIIT training and really capitalizing on other women's insecurities and leading them down a path where all of a sudden they're spending, an hour in front of the mirror a day doing all of these massages and exercises in hopes of getting a surgical result that's just it's really actually not possible. And so this all leads us to today and why I really wanted to bring Dana on. So I found this account, Anastasia Beauty Fascia, and this account was served to me, a reel was served to me from this woman who said that she did not get a blepharoplasty and showed her before and afters. And in her before photos, she has very hooded eyes. And in her after photos, they are as snatched as Bella Hadid's. And
Yeah.
this reel has 31 million views. And she says that she achieved this result through a specific type of facial massage or a fascia massage that, of course, she can sell you a course for exactly how to do it. And she says that she has never had any Botox or filler. She has fuller lips. She also has a method of slimming your nose through nose massage.
Yes, because everyone knows you can definitely massage bones and cartilage smaller.
I mean, after a nose lymphatic drainage massage, my nose looks so snatched. It's crazy.
The thing about these things is that there's a grain of truth
Yeah.
that there's just
Right.
a little bit that we can manipulate or do with these things, but then to say it'll cause this surgical result is just wild.
I would consider myself a pretty skeptical and reasonably smart person. But when I first encountered this account, I saved it and I went back to it, I would say once a week, because I wanted to will myself to do her exercises, truly. But I barely can keep up a skincare routine. I'm very lazy when it comes to all these things. And so the idea that I would be doing facial massage for an hour a day is just never going to happen. And it was very stressful mentally to know that I was aging at a rate I didn't need to and that I could have the Snatch Bella Hadid look if I would get up off my ass and get in front of the mirror and buy Anastasia's course. So Dana posted on her Instagram saying that this woman is a total scammer. And I DM'd you immediately and I was like, thank you so much because I can't tell you how stressful her account has been just subliminally for me in my life. And so I was like, you have to come on and talk about this and we can get into other, beauty scams and beauty procedures that produce nebulous results at best.
Yes, so I have a lot to say about her, but I first want to say I did probably one of my snarkiest videos I've ever done in response to one of her videos. So I've spoken with surgeons and providers and whatever that I know about this girl because there are times when she slightly looks away, like she turns her face a little bit away from the camera and the filter. She has like a soft, like a filter that just smooths her face a little bit more, and she wears makeup. She like people don't seem to realize how much you can cover with just that little bit of makeup. You can see a little bit of a bleph scar when she turns her face because then that very light softening filter glitches or
Mm-hmm.
moves out of the way. And so I guess she kept saying, she's never had a bleph, and people are in the comments like, you've had a bleph, you've definitely had a bleph. And she does this video where she's like looking like erratically, tapping on her eye, like, where's the scar? Where's the scar? If I have a bleph, where's the scar? So I did the same thing. And my bleph is way more recent than hers. Well, at this point, oh wow, it's been 2 years. 2022, I had a bleph. And if I just have just the slightest amount of makeup on, you cannot see it at all.
Yeah.
Just like not even really concealer. I could just put a little bit of eyeshadow on there and you cannot see it. So I did the whole tapping, like closing my eyes, like, where's the scar? Where's the scar? And that started this whole conversation on my page of people who were like, okay, so can you tell me a little bit about this? So I will start with lymphatic drainage and facial massage do help a little bit with, first of all, lymphatic drainage is going to help with a little bit of puffiness. If you have so much puffiness that your eyes are down the way her before was, usually that's going to be some sort of medical condition, some serious medications, alcoholism, things like that, where the lymphatic drainage isn't really going to help. You need to address those other things, you know?
Mhm.
You're not really gonna just massage your eyes and then go from having really, really, really puffy eyes to not. But everyone is a little puffier in the morning. So if you do a little bit of this, like lymphatic drainage, a little bit of the gua sha, it can get you to where you know how your face is more sculpted by the end of the night
Mhm.
for versus the morning? It'll get you there quicker. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Mhm.
And then the muscle relaxation part, this is gonna be only for certain parts of your face. So, you've probably done this, maybe you've been working really hard, like, at your computer or reading, or you've been outside where you've been squinting, and then at some point you realize that between your brows, like, where you've been squinting, it feels like it won't relax, like it's just
Mm.
constricted or contracted, I guess is the right word. And so you might even, like, kinda massage it to and, like, raise your brows like, "Ooh, like, I've been glaring at something all day." And when you do that, it feels nice and your eyes kind of open up. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you're just glowering the whole time. So, when you're doing facial massage, you can relax some of those muscles that have been contracted. And usually it's going to be things like pursed lips, the frowning, things like that, where you might hold it in a contraction, usually in response to while you're working or whatever, some other stimuli. Most people don't just walk around glowering. Well, some people do, but most people don't.
Right, right.
So that does once you relax your brows, for example, or relax your lips are gonna look a little more fuller because 'cause you're not pursing them. Your brows are gonna be, it's gonna be a little bit more open, a little bit more lifted, and you're also gonna feel that relief.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, where you realize you've been doing this all day,
Yes, absolutely.
and then you start rubbing on your face, and you're like, "Ooh." And
Mhm.
you're raising your brows and you're rubbing, and then it feels open, like
Mhm.
this versus this. That's
Right.
basically what massage is, okay? When they're talking about jowling, your jowling is actual literal skin and some fat that's starting to fall with age. What do you mean you're massaging this and it's gonna go up? It's not a muscle. It's not like no one goes, "Oh, I have skin here. Let me rub on this, and if I massage it right, it's gonna, like, go up." That's the part where I'm like, "Guys, the grain of truth is there is a little bit of fluid that we hold in our face, and if you do your massages and you can move some of that fluid out, if you've been contracting your muscles in certain places, like and you massage it out, it's gonna relax your face, which looks more open and
Mhm.
inviting and
Mhm.
youthful, but you're not going to just go, "I want my cheeks higher, and so I'm gonna do this, and then it's gonna stay, and if I just keep doing this, it's gonna stay up here." It's not science. It's not physically possible. Sorry for the rant.
Right, and I think that it's just so problematic and like I truly nefarious when a woman who very clearly has a bleph scar that you've pointed out and were able to see is literally lying to other women on social media and telling them that no, I never have had any surgery, that this is all due to, the finger tapping potion and, magic potion I can sell you. And it really is capitalizing on other women's insecurities and also like selling them a solution that doesn't actually produce those results that they're hoping for.
Especially with Anastasia, she also has lost weight, and it looks like a significant amount of weight. She
Mhm.
Mhm.
never shows her full body, but you can see in some of those befores, like, where it is cut, like, just below her shoulders, you can see that she has more rounded, fuller shoulders, and that's the other thing. So she might be one of those people who carries more weight in her face, so when she lost weight, and I truly believe she's had a bluff. I mean, I can't know 100,000% for sure, but I'm starting to think like maybe she truly believes that she sculpted her face, not realizing that while she was doing these massages, she was also losing weight.
Right.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, or I struggle to believe that someone is that nefarious, to use your word, like that just in your face. I know I'm lying. I wake up every day and know I'm lying, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this anyway, and then sell these programs for $600. This isn't a $50 program, which $50, most people could be like, "Oh, man, like, that sucks." But $600, I'd be like, "Oh my god, that's half of some people's rent."
Right. I mean, I call American Express after $600 and dispute that charge. But what I want to say to your point, Dana, I do also notice like when I have lost weight, my nose sort of shrinks. Like I feel like I gain weight almost in my nose, which is so interesting and not something I know like I noticed until I like picked up. I was like, "Oh, I've lost a little bit of weight." Like my nose feels a little smaller.
I mean, you do have fat and stuff. Your nose isn't just a bone. And it can hold a lot of water or
Mhm.
like fluid because you do have all of your sinuses. That's actually one of the places that you do use your gua sha. You pull out from your nose out to the outside of your face. Okay, so I do have a gua sha. It's really for like usually honestly when I'm kind of sick and I'm just so stuffed. And you might have noticed this when you're really, really sick and your sinuses are infected. You will be fuller right here. You're like, my nose
Mhm.
looks so wide. Or maybe that just happens to me because I already have a bigger nose. But you're pulling the fluid this way and then down to drain it.
Yeah.
And you
Mhm.
have to just keep doing that. And when you do facials, like hydrofacial, for example, they open up your lymphatic cavities and drain and start draining out. And you do feel better. You don't usually see a huge difference unless there is a lot of fluid, which again, are you sick? Do you have a long-term illness of some sort or a certain genetic condition or whatever, some medications and then alcohol and things like that, where you're extra puffy, you might
Yes.
see a bigger difference after doing this. But like right now, I'm not puffy. I didn't drink, whatever. I don't have any health conditions. If I sat here and did this whole time while we spoke, by the end of it, neither one of us were going to see a difference.
Right.
A lot of my followers and a lot of people who weren't following me but became followers after that snarky video, they're like, I tried her stuff and it really didn't work. Or, oh, like I saw like my face was a little less puffy, but I did it for a year and nothing happened. But then there will be people who are diehard and they're like, this changed my face. And I was like, great. I would love to see a before and after. Like, please, like
Right.
if this really happened for you, so most people would be like, I don't have before and afters. Why would I take a before? And me, I guess it's the
Mhm.
scientist in me, like the science background. I take a before for everything. I want to see that my effort and my money was put to good use.
Mhm.
And so it kills me that they're like, well, it got so much better. How do you know it got better if you don't have a before? Or some people would say,
Totally.
well, you can't really tell from this before, but like just know it's so much better. And I'm like, that's how I know that it's the way you see yourself, your
Exactly.
perception that makes you feel like it's working. And hey, if that gives you a confidence boost and that makes you happy, I'm all for everyone doing exactly what makes them happy. But please do not tell everyone it is this miracle thing that gave you a bluff.
Exactly. And it's funny, I think that anyone can relate to how you start to like if you sit in front of the mirror for an hour a day and manipulate your face in a bunch of different ways, like just all that staring at yourself is going to on some level distort how you see yourself. And I think that it's going to be very easy to get like a placebo effect and to feel like something's happening even if it's not. And I want to like hashtag believe women, but I think when it comes to this specific area, I don't know. I'm very wary to think that any of this could be effective, especially to the degree that Anastasia is selling. And also when it's $600, by the way, I mean, a bluff is like 3 grand. We're not even that far away from how much just a bluff would be for the time savings alone. Like,
Right. I wanted to add, it made me think of this when you said if you stare at your face for so long, it's distorted. It's kind of like when you say a word over and over and then it sounds weird or off, like orange, and you're like, orange,
mhm.
orange, orange, orange. You're like, how do I say orange? Am I saying it right?
Right,
Orange,
right.
orange. And it's just, you know what I mean? It's just a
Mhm.
funny phenomenon.
Exactly.
For bluffs, though, some of these people would come into my comments and go, you could have just done facial massage, gua sha, facial exercises. Everyone has a different word and they're all slightly different, but
Yeah.
I could have just done that than a bluff. And so then I have a more recent reel where I was like, okay, y'all need to stop telling me I could have just done a bluff. And I really wanted to call Anastasia out, but there's a couple others too that are pretty big now. She has 2 million followers, by the
It's
way.
crazy.
Isn't that insane?
It's insane. And you know that there are probably 100,000 women or 50,000 women who are bought this course and are doing these exercises religiously. And it's a lot of wasted time and money, in my opinion.
I just wanna know, like, do any of these people have a job? Like, I don't even have time to do Kegels. I don't even think enough about Kegels enough to, like, mew or do these facial exercises. Like, it is shocking to me that they think that this is, like, a sustainable way to, like, maintain this level of sculpted with their face because they have to keep doing it in perpetuity, right?
I assuming so. I just know that if people comment like, "Hey, it didn't really work for me," or "I saw some improvement," I think her response is always, "Well, you have to do it consistently and, a year or 2 at least." That's her comment all the time. And
Oh
if
my
someone
gosh.
says, "I've been doing this for a year and I'm not seeing a difference," she'll just say, "Well, you must not be consistent." Like you're
Mhm.
like she just like blames, whatever, then she blocks them. But back to my bluff though, I made that reel and I was like, "I'm so tired of people saying I should do lymphatic drainage, gua sha, whatever for this. Like, let me show you what my bluff was." And I literally showed like the piece of skin being removed, the
Mhm.
fat blob being pulled out of my eyebrow. Like, there's nothing in this world that can remove this piece of skin and this piece
Mhm.
of fat. Have you guys seen it?
No,
It's
I did
actually
see it,
really
and that's exactly where
satisfying.
I was literally gonna be like, "Can you explain exactly what a bleph does and why this can't be achieved through massage?" So thank you so much for going here. It's such a good reel.
Not everyone is gonna necessarily have, like, fat to remove, but she would have been the one like, looking at hers, you could see that there's just, like, a mass above the crease. So, some people just have hanging skin. Some people have, like it's I don't know how to explain it, but there's just, like, a mass between their eyebrow and their crease where that's where we remove the fat. I wish I could show it. It's just not something that shows very easily on camera or in pictures, but it makes my whole like eye area look more open and lifted when they removed that glob of fat that's like tucked under my
Mhm.
eyebrow.
Mhm.
People who have really like deep set eyes, a lot of times they might not have some of that fat, which is why like, when they have like really, really, really defined creases and you can just see it's like it looks hollow, they're missing that fat that I had too much of. So
Mm.
those people might go and get filler in that area to soften their crease to make it not so harsh. Whereas I needed to define my crease more by removing some of that fat and then cutting excess skin. And there is no massage in the world that can do that.
Are you saying that when people have, like, pretty hollow like, when they're basically you can kinda, like, see their brow bone and it gets kinda hollow, and I think that happens a lot with age. Are you saying people are
Yes.
filling that area now?
Yes. So what you can do is you can get fat transfer or you
Mm.
can get filler. That's something we've typically seen with people who are much older and they have that
Mhm.
hollowing on the inside. But then there are some people that I think had a bluff that maybe shouldn't have had a bluff. They should have had a brow lift. So there are some people that I think maybe shouldn't have had a bleph and maybe just needed a brow lift. And one of those people is Nina Dobrev. And by the way, she's absolutely gorgeous. And if that's the look she's going for, everyone has different styles. I just want to say
Mhm.
that. But she had really low brows and she still had a pretty defined crease. But it looks like she didn't really do anything with her brows. She didn't lift them. She just went in and defined her crease more. And now she has pretty hollow eye sockets.
Mhm.
There are people who have done that, who have gotten a bleph. Maybe that's the look that they wanted at the time, or maybe they weren't sure the right verbiage for what they were trying to achieve and they ended up getting this and now they have really really hollow eye sockets. We can go in with a fat transfer, so just little micro droplets of fat usually pulled maybe from your gels, maybe from your arm, like just a little bit, and then inject that into the crease and that's a pretty permanent way to soften that hollowing. Or we can do just a hyaluronic acid injectable, which does mean you would have to keep up with it every few years.
Along the same lines, can we get into face hit? Because there's this influencer on Instagram named Sadie Nardini Official, and she has 600,000 followers, and she is advertising that people can do her face HIIT training exercises and do mini facelifts. Like, this can be done in your car at stoplights. This can be done on the toilet, wherever you are and have a few moments, you can give yourself a mini facelift, according to this woman who has a ton of followers and a ton of engagement. Really quick before Dana, you explain, I just want to say that it's hilarious because her photos, the before and after, is her kind of looking down in the before and then her fully chin up into good lighting in the after. Like, to anyone who's paying the slightest bit of attention, it is so clear how she achieved the after results. It's by lifting her chin and putting her face in good lighting. Anyway, but can you explain face HIIT training?
I said other things have like a grain of truth in them. This is the one where I just call BS all the way around. I
Yeah.
mean, we've all heard that whether you frown or you smile, you're going to get wrinkles. That movement
Mm-hmm.
creates wrinkles. And then you obviously have muscles in your face, but training your muscles in your face isn't going to prevent jowling, for example, because that jowling is your skin and your other soft tissue like fat starting to fall. If you look at like an anatomy picture of someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll see like the muscle will get smaller, but in your bones, they actually resorb, they get smaller. That's where you get some of the hollowing. But then the fat literally is like falling down in your face, just like anywhere else. Think of your boobs. Think about the skin above your knees when you see a 50, 60, 70-year-old person like this, it starts to hang. And it's not the muscle, it's not the muscle of their thigh muscles falling, it is the fat and the skin
Mm-hmm.
that's hanging. And again, that you're not exercising, you can't exercise fat.
Right.
When you exercise, your skin actually gets more loose. Her before and afters kill me. There are people who will tell me that my before and after is with a celebrity where I'm trying to get like, the best shot and it's like they're turned this way or they're turned slightly this way and I can't get an exact one because I don't have control over that. I'm like, how are you guys going to talk to me about that? And then here's this person like looking down and looking up. Like it's insane. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that except for BS.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm seeing on her account, like, all you need is my 7-day neck lift. And it's like, you're telling me that in 7 days, you can reverse 30 years of gravity. Like, it's insane. It's a very clear example of snake oil, in my opinion.
Thank you for calling it snake oil because I love when they'll say, well, like if I said something in the comments to like, I've not ever spoken to her, but if I did in the hit comment ladies section, if I said, this is bullshit, people will respond. I've had people say, well, you sell plastic surgery. So of course
Oh
it's in
my
your best
gosh.
interest to say that this is bullshit. And I'm like, I'm not actually selling plastic surgery. I don't sell that.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about plastic surgery. I get paid from my Instagram, but not specifically by surgeons talking about plastic surgery. She's actually directly selling you something.
Right.
It whether it's a $40 7-day plan or $600 or whatever
Mm-hmm.
plan, they're directly selling you something. So when you're accusing me of having bad intentions or wanting to sell you something, just know I'm not actually literally selling you plastic surgery. I'm trying to give
Mm-hmm.
you the information that if you so choose, you can go find the surgeon, you can go have your consultations, decide if it's right for you, all of that. I get no money from that whatsoever.
Right, right. No, exactly. And I think one of the most valuable things is the transparency you provide so that people aren't wasting their time on things and wasting, even if it's a small amount of money. It's less about the money and it's more about like the emotional hope and investment and time. That's much more valuable. And I think that can be a lot more kind of devastating for people. And if you're spending a year doing Anastasia's program, okay, that is a ton of time that could be, redirected towards maybe the money to just get the procedure that would give you the results that you want. So we've kind of said that fascia massage is not going to produce the results of a facelift or a brow lift or a blepharoplasty. Ditto face hit, there's nothing to it. Gua sha, that is primarily like a way of draining small amounts of fluid, but is also not
Yes.
going to produce a surgical result. It's a temporary drainage method.
Yes.
Okay.
It's lymphatic drainage.
Lymphatic drainage. Okay. And then what about face yoga? Have you heard of face yoga?
I mean, it's kind of like face hit.
Okay. Same
It's
thing.
another thing of like exercising. in some ways, it's a little bit more, I guess, like facial massage. If you are, again, like frowning your brows, if you're relaxing your brows, it is going to give you a more open appearance. But that's really just because you're relaxing the muscle that you've been contracting. It's
Mhm.
not like you're doing facial yoga and now you're going to have fox eye, cat eye lift, no
Mhm.
gels. Your neck is super tight, and that's not happening.
Mhm. What about frownies? This is another thing that people, are doing, which I have bought the frownies. I put them on before bed and I always rub them off. I cannot stand sleeping in them. But this is something that I'm like, actually think that might work. So I'm so curious for your thoughts. Basically, sorry, everyone. They're like stickers that you put on your face that smooth out your skin while you're sleeping. And people will wear them for like 10 to 15 hours a day to, combat fine lines or wrinkles.
Yeah, I mean, also just to add to that, Lauren, I've seen a woman who does just like literal medical tape for her 11s, and
Mhm.
she claims that that works. And I always thought face taping worked, but curious for your thoughts, Dana.
So it works, but it's a temporary thing.
Mhm.
So the frownies are really cool because a lot of times I'll have hyaluronic acid and stuff. So it's also like moisturizing your skin, but it's also holding things where you're not moving them. And so it's not that when I say it's temporary, you probably take it off if you did wear it all night. You take it off in the morning and you look really great for a while. But then if the next day you don't do it, your skin is back to how it was.
Yeah.
And so it's really great for like maybe before events, things like that. To some people, some of my followers tell me that they use it to kind of lengthen their time between Botox appointments, things like that. But again, when they conflate it with this is just as good as Botox, no, it's not.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's not going to do the same thing. But hey, if you have an event tomorrow, if you do this, you will have a more refreshed, lifted, fewer wrinkles. And that's what you're looking for, right?
In theory, if you're doing it every night though, right? It's just like a temporary result that's kind of lasting in perpetuity as long as you don't stop.
Theoretically, but you're still going to be aging still. So what you look like this year, if you've done it every single day until next year, you're still going to have like more lines than you would if you'd had Botox, because Botox actually prevents you from
Making those
creating more
expressions.
lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
making yeah, yes. But yeah, if you're doing it every single night, then every single day you're going to look great. But then the day that you don't, you're reverted back to exactly
Mm,
how you were, which is fine.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Just
Okay.
know going into it whether it's a permanent solution or at least semi-permanent solution or, something you have to
It's
keep
kind
up
of like
with
me with
every day.
my teeth whitening strips. They're
Yeah.
not permanent. I do them before events, and if I
Right.
don't for a while, my teeth get a little bit more yellow, and then I do them again, and then it starts getting back to where it was, and that's just how it is.
And I
Mhm.
mean, maybe it could also be like curling your hair, like the curl is going to last, like from the
Mhm.
temporary manipulation of the whatever it is, of the physical thing. It's going to last temporarily, but eventually it will just go back to what it naturally is.
Yes, as soon as you get in the shower, right?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Or step outside.
Especially in Houston. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I know. Same here in New York. It's like, what's the point?
Okay, so this one we got a ton of requests about, and it looks like I'm not the only one who struggles to keep up with her red light LED mask routine. I finally got one and I've done it maybe 4 times. So, curious, Dana, if do you have expertise on the LED mask or thoughts for people?
Yes.
I'll just say really quick, I use my LED mask, my red light mask. I do feel like it does something, especially if I do it every day. But I'm curious for your thoughts about also the LED red light panel. So please.
Yeah. Okay, so they're awesome. I love the red light LEDs. Well, even the ones with like the amber and the blue. The blue is to help with acne and bacteria. I love them. I have used them especially after surgery, and it really okay, there's a lot of scientific literature about it helping with a little bit of collagen, a lot with like redness. If you have rosacea, things like that, this can be something that's really great for you. And then stimulating just recovery. So if you have a sunburn, if you just had
Hmm.
surgery, if you have things like that, it is so wonderful. I also like Lauren sometimes. So I end up doing it about twice a week, and you're really supposed to do it 3 to 5 times a week. I do it twice a week. I still feel like my skin is clearer than it has ever been. A lot of the like really light like sunspots and stuff have faded, but I have been doing it for 2 years.
Wow.
The panels, I have one. Current Body sent me one. I really, really, really want to be the girl that uses it, especially like for my chest area.
Mhm.
But I don't know, I'm just too lazy to pull it out and plug it up and, like,
Right.
lay in bed, and then I don't have anywhere in my bedroom for it to go, so then I have to pack it all up into back into the box, and I'm just like, if I were just so rich that I had, like, one of those ginormous bedrooms, you know,
Mhm.
like the Kim Kardashian bedroom that is pretty much the size of my apartment, and there's just so much room for storage and, like, very, like, cute storage. I could just have the panel and just pull it out instead of having to break it down and put it back up every time, and I know that how that sounds because this is an incredible piece of equipment that costs, like, $2,500. I know how insane I sound, but I don't want it just sitting out, and I
No,
can't
yeah.
pick it up and put it and pull it out every day.
It's cumbersome for sure, and that's actually what's kinda keeping me from investing in it. You know what I think? I think they need to invent one where it just attaches to the bottom of your iPad or your laptop or your TV, so you can just, like, sit there, watch TV, do whatever, and then actually have, like, the light, be able to bask in it, because most normal people don't have space for a massive red LED panel that they wanna have sitting out in their,
Yes.
tiny space.
I agree, and I mean, it is made for us normies because you can, like, fold it back up and, put it away, but I already know how I sound. I need to just start doing it. But, whereas Kim has her whole, like, med spa in her house, and she has, like, the full body, it looks like a tanning bed
Yeah,
or
I'm so
Yes.
LED
jealous.
thing, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's so nice to have space like that." I'm like,
Right.
"I can't even have, like, an extra stool in my bedroom or it's gonna just mess up the entire way that I can walk through my bedroom." Just one little stool is, like, ruining the path.
Exactly.
Okay, another at-home procedure, or, like, treatment that people are curious about is microneedling, at-home microneedling devices. Any thoughts on these?
Microneedling is absolutely amazing. At-home ones, you are risking different types of scarring that you don't want and infection because it's usually a roller versus the microneedling that you get at a med spa. It's way more hygienic and it's going to a certain depth and
Mm,
it's all going to this like the specified depth based on your skin and your needs that they can change and in a certain pattern versus when you roll it, I mean think about like when you're painting a wall like you kind of just go
Yeah.
you're trying maybe you're trying to go straight but it's not perfectly straight and you might hit the same area incorrectly making that hole bigger. It's just not uniform and you're risking infection. So that's one of those things that the idea is wonderful, but definitely go to a professional.
yeah. Okay, and another, very commonly asked about thing is collagen powder and supplements.
Yes. So the research is still mixed on this, but I don't think it's going to hurt. So if you're taking it and you like it, keep taking it. If you're
Mhm.
taking it and you don't feel like there's a difference, just stop.
Okay.
But the research is very conflicted. So I don't want to say either way. We'll
Right.
see. We'll see. It's not harmful. So.
Right. Okay, and what about cool sculpting?
Oh, I could talk about cool sculpting all day. I hate cool sculpting. It even had me I lost like a potential sponsorship with Allergan because of cool sculpting. Allergan, AbbVie now is who owns it. They bought cool sculpting from whoever, but I was in the running for like a Botox sponsorship. I was so excited. But then, they do the vetting. They want to make sure that you didn't tweet anything, in your past that could be embarrassing. They do all of that.
Mhm.
And then they found like these posts and this podcast I did talking about how much I hate cool sculpting. And listen, I stand by it. I would rather not be sponsored by someone who thought that maybe I should say anything other than good things about cool sculpting. So, what do you want to know about cool sculpting? Because I can go on
Yeah,
and on.
no. So cool sculpting, for people who aren't aware, it's a non-invasive method of fat removal, which uses cold to freeze subcutaneous fat tissue, in localized areas of the body. So they basically like put this machine on you, and it's supposed to freeze the fat away. So I guess the question is, does it produce results? Is it effective? What are the risks? That sort of thing.
Okay. So, it can work sometimes for some people. If you did Cool Sculpting, you like your results, I'm happy for you. Honestly, you're one of the few though. For most people, it either doesn't do much or they have to do so many cycles of it to get to anywhere near what they were thinking that they would need. And at that point, they could have just had lipo and it would have been easier recovery. We would have had an accurate and exact amount of fat removed from exactly where we wanted it removed from.
Mhm.
So most people's experience is that it took a little bit, but like nowhere near. And then I had to do 10 sessions and it still wasn't exactly what I wanted. And at
Mhm.
that point, it cost them $6,000, you know?
Right. And a lot of pain and recovery time in that as well.
Yes. And you have to wait usually, I think 4 to 8 weeks, depending on where on the body, before you can do your next
Oh my
cycle.
gosh.
So you're doing that. If you did 10, that's, you're a year and a half in and you're like, oh, I really wanted it to get the little overhang of my belly. And it's about, a little smaller, but I've been doing this for a year and it's cost me $6,000.
Right.
The other most frequent negative experience I would say people have is shelving. So the way cool sculpting is it kind of sucks like a little like bit of fat into this like cup looking thing, and that's where it goes. A lot of people experience that around where that paddle or that cup was placed, there's like an indentation. And usually then we have to go in with lipo to fix it.
Mhm.
And so you could have just had lipo to begin with. So I would say the three things that usually happens and negative outcomes would be either you don't really see a difference, it takes a lot to see any kind of difference, and there's this very frequently happens, the shelving, the indentions that's happening. Now, on the other hand, there can be something called, let me look this up really quick.
I feel like you should have an honorary, like, medical degree of some sort or something because of just truly everything that you already know.
I have a master's in biochem.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, there you go. I'm like, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And I registered dietitian and
That's right, yeah.
so it's called paradoxical adipose hyperplasia.
Oh my gosh.
Paradoxical. Okay.
Yeah.
So one on the more extreme end, you probably heard about the supermodel Linda Evangelista, and she
Mhm.
has PAH, which is paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, which means the fat that they try to destroy actually grew and grew to an like a crazy substantial amount. Like the literal fat cells got really big. So think about them just swelling up like rice that's been sitting in water.
Wow.
And the only thing that you can do for that is lipo, but it's really, really difficult. And usually it only affects a little like area, like a think about like the size of your fist somewhere. And so you just have these mounds, almost like growths.
Oh my gosh.
It's really unfortunate.
She said it permanently disfigured her, right? And that makes sense if that's what happened to her. I mean, that's crazy.
Yes, and so I think she might have gotten it on her chin, and so when
Oh.
they removed it, the thing is like when you remove fat with lipo, you're removing the whole cell. So when these cells are like that overswollen, you're removing that much of the fat. She was left with not enough fat, but there's not anything that they can do really because they have to remove those entire like fat cells because they
Mhm.
can continue to like grow and just
Right.
malformed. I don't know if in that area, because I've never really heard of anyone doing it. It sounds like it would be feasible that she could do like a fat transfer to soften if she has anything going on like on her chin where too much fat was taken. But that's also just a very tricky area in general. Think about like, all the arteries and veins and stuff that you have in your neck. It's just a little bit more tricky to insert fat there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading an article, I'm just looking this up while you're talking about it, and she's had, I guess, liposuction to try to fix some of it, but she says, like, even after that, the bulges are, like, not like soft fat, that she'll have chafing to the point of almost bleeding because it's, like, hard fat that's, like, rubbing against each other,
Yes.
like, all over her body. It's, like, it's really scary.
It's one of those things because with the way that cool sculpting works is that it damages the fat cell. And when you have damaged fat cells, your body gets rid of it through just your whole waste like cycle system.
Mhm.
But in some people, it tries to repair it and it ends up causing these scar tissue
Ugh.
growth of, huge fat cells. And it's really unfortunate. If you have shelving, just like bad indentions or indentations, if you have PAH, Cool Sculpting has had to set up like a system where you can apply and show them the damage that has been done from Cool Sculpting, and then they will help pay for a plastic surgeon
Wow.
to do a revision. So I have a friend who I recently had to give this information to. I've had followers that I've given this information to. That I think this was when Allergan was like, "We're not going to sponsor you anymore for Botox," and I was
But
like,
good.
"Hey, it's not my fault."
No, and I'm glad you're giving this information out. I mean, I had no idea about this condition. I knew that cool sculpting was kind of like, murky, but I had no idea that this is a risk.
Yes, but they will pay for the revision. They'll pay for the whole
That's
thing,
good.
but it'll only be just to fix that area. So if you just have one bulge on your stomach, they're not going to pay for your whole stomach to be lipoed and whatever. It'll
Mhm.
just be to get rid of that mass.
But I'm assuming you never go back to what you were before.
It depends on how bad it was, and some people's are is nowhere near as bad as maybe what Linda
Mm,
Evangelista was, or maybe she, because I've never actually seen pictures, maybe she was being a little dramatic because she always has been a supermodel and, like,
right.
really, really concerned with maybe, like, what her stomach looks like or whatever, versus us, we're like, "I mean, we already kinda had a fat roll, like, what's a little bit more of a fat roll?"
Totally.
So there is degrees. It's not always, like, completely disfigured.
Gotcha. Okay.
Usually not that bad, but it depends on where it is, how much, like, if it's all like, every spot that you did, the surgeon can remove that and then do their best with lipo and trying to make sure that it all looks good, and usually, and from what I've seen, surgeons do a really great job. But I have seen some where even the best surgeon couldn't really do much because it was just that bad.
Mm,
So just know that. It sounds like it's non-invasive, and people are afraid of the word surgery, but non-invasive doesn't mean it's safe, it doesn't mean it's good, it doesn't mean it's best, it doesn't mean
mhm.
it's a good alternative, it just means here's another option, and you really need to talk through if it's really right for
And
you.
again, if it's something where it's $700 a treatment, but you need 7 of them and lipo is 5 to $7,000, you're really talking almost no money savings and not nearly the results. And so I think that's the other thing. People can kind of get like deceived into going down the non-invasive route when it's actually not
Mhm.
even actually less expensive.
Well, and what it makes me think of is that expression, like penny wise and pound foolish, because you
Mhm.
could end up doing a lot of damage that you will pay more to undo.
Yes. And revisions are expensive. Revisions are so expensive. It's usually 2 to 3 times the cost of whatever the
Wow.
original would have been to fix something. So if your nose job was $8,000, it's usually about $20,000 to fix it.
And I think that, Chandler and I, we always say on the pod, like, if you're going to pursue a surgical intervention for something that you're insecure about, we like to approach it with a philosophy of, like, is this something that bothers you every day? Like, every day you think about it. You look in the mirror, you look at yourself, and something about you just like really is debilitating in that way. Or is this more of an optimization? Is this like, trying to be as hot as possible? And nothing wrong with that. Like if you're going to do that and take the risk and know about it. But I think Chandler and I are much more risk averse people. And for us, it's only really worth it if it's truly something that we feel deeply insecure about and we know is going to, the risk is going to be worth the reward. So that's,
I
yeah.
agree. But then there are things, I think people hear buzzwords and they think something is higher risk or lower risk than actually is. And one word would be surgery. So, like, a bleph is a very, 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 very easy, very low risk procedure. But they hear surgery, scalpel,
Mhm.
sutures, and they're like, "Oh my god." But then
Mhm.
something like full sculpting or something else, lasers, I love lasers, but hey, a laser can burn your face off.
Mhm.
And so they're like, "Well, I could just do laser tightening around my eyes instead of a bleph." And I'm like, The bleph is probably gonna be better
Right.
for what you want, and it's actually a lower risk for many people."
Mhm. Okay, actually speaking to a very common treatment that I think that people are getting done but does present some risks is Morpheus 8. Curious if you have thoughts on Morpheus 8.
Yes. So I love radio frequency microneedling. I do secret RF. I don't do it frequently you do a set of 3 and then you do one every year, every other year as needed. Morpheus is pretty cool. It's like Secret RF, but it also has more modalities, which means it can go deeper.
Mhm.
So the problem with that is though, is that if it goes deeper, we can start messing up the fat that's underneath. And so you can start get hollowing in your face. So it is really, 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 really important if you want Morpheus 8 to go to someone who really knows what they're doing, understands like what the different depths can do, and then not to overuse in your face. I had people that were telling me that they were getting it done every 2
Oh my
months, like
gosh.
just consistently. And I was like, why? Oh my God. Most people, it's like a set of 3, maybe 5 or 6 if they have really, really, really terrible like acne scarring, like pit scarring.
Mhm.
But most people, you do like one set of 3 and then one every couple years, if even.
Interesting.
And so if you're doing it, 6 times a year, barring really bad pit scarring, and you would usually do it just in that area at that point, please don't do that. You're
Mhm.
gonna start getting rid of some of the fat in your face, and then it's going to age
Right,
you.
exactly. Oh, wait, and, also kind of speaking to getting rid of fat in the face, any thoughts on buccal fat removal?
Oh, man. I, in general, don't like it for most people. There are some people that it is absolutely perfect for them. They do have an oversized buccal fat pad. That's what we're removing when we remove that. You can do some buccal fat pad where they're just removing parts of it, not all of it. But for most people, it might look really good for you to look like that very like sculpted, like model, like almost like you're sucking in your cheeks look
Mhm.
for a few years, but at some point you're going to look very gaunt
Mhm,
and
mhm.
old, and it's a very hard place to replace fat because that is on the inside of your mouth. That fat pad is they cut from the inside of your mouth. They're not going to be able to inject enough fat back into your face where it'll look natural. You're just going to look really bloated if you're
Mm.
trying to replace that fat after you've removed it. So most people, I don't like it.
Mhm.
Some people, it was made for their
Right, right.
face.
Okay, that's very helpful. What are your thoughts on Sculptra?
I like Sculptra. Okay, so Sculptra, it's a bio like stimulant. It makes your body produce more collagen. It's really good for your face, for different parts of your body where you probably need a little bit more collagen support. But for a while, I think we've just been overfilling. Not everyone, and I'm not talking about providers, I'm talking about specific like people were really wanting to go really plump in their cheeks, really plump in their lips. Like that was just the thing. And I think for a while, people were overdoing Sculpture too because it's got the filling effect and then it builds collagen for a few
Mhm.
years. You have it for a few years and people had that just overfilled kind of hard look to their face. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
definitely.
Yeah.
And so I think using Sculptra like as needed just in certain areas, wonderful. If you're going every 6 to 9 months or every year to get Sculptra, I would sit down with your provider and like talk about that, make a plan.
Yeah, and I think that I mean with Sculptra for me, the research I've done on it, because initially I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do fillers, and I still have not gone down the filler route or the sculpture route. The what I read and saw is that it makes the tissue inflamed and creates scar tissue, which causes your face to build collagen in that area. And for some people, it's a minority, but minority of people will develop some rippling under their skin from that scar tissue, and it is permanent, and there's not a ton you can do. And so that for me, I was just like, oh gosh, like I just don't know if I want to do a procedure that potentially is going to have could have a permanent negative outcome.
Yes, I will say though, that's usually the people who are getting a lot of
Okay.
it, like the rippling and that much scar tissue. It's just it really just comes down to knowing when to stop, knowing what procedures are actually what you're looking for. So sometimes it's and this is what I think was happening a lot with people who were really overfilling their face. They were scared of a facelift, but they were trying to lift all of their skin and
Mm.
doing all these things and they were over injecting. Sculptra can provide a little bit of some skin tightening because of the collagen, but what they really needed was a facelift. And so it just comes down to you advocating for yourself, you finding a provider that's going to be honest with you and talk through all your options, and to not be afraid of getting the thing that's right for you. If you don't want to get a facelift, that's fine, but don't think you can just replace a facelift with
Mhm.
Sculptra, or, getting Sculptra. You can't replace Sculptra with some cream that you bought. You know what I mean? Like, these things all work
Yeah.
together, but they all do very different things.
Right.
And it's fine to be afraid of the facelift, but if people are telling you you need a facelift and you're like, I don't want that, I want something non-invasive, and they go, well, I guess we could try Sculptra. Just know Sculptra is not doing what you think it's going to do, and they're just giving you that option because they want to help you, and you're not wanting to have that facelift.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
sense?
They
Yeah.
still want you to book a procedure. So if you're not gonna book this one, then maybe we'll just do this other one.
I mean, most providers really do. They do have integrity. They're like, I mean, you could have more collagen here. Like, that is something that your skin does kind of need, but you're not willing to do the facelift. We can do this, that it'll improve your appearance a little bit.
Mhm.
And then that person then starts to believe maybe that Sculptra is going to keep them from having a facelift or something like that. And it's like, no, no, you needed a facelift, and you, for whatever reason, you're too afraid of it. You don't want to do it. And a lot of times I think that's lack of education about what these things
Right,
do.
right. Well, Chan, any other, and Dana, any others you guys want to get into of beauty scams people need to be aware of, or procedures that you think there's some lacking in education?
No, this was a wealth of knowledge. Truly. I feel like our listeners are going to be very happy that they are able to sift, all the noise on Instagram.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions for me, feel free to DM me or comment. I try my best to get through a lot of messages, a lot of comments too.
Dana, you're truly the best. Thank you so much for coming on again. We're so grateful. And everyone go follow at IG Famous by Dana. If you want to get grounded in some reality, and also just for so much good procedure education. Thank you so much again, Dana, for coming on.
Thank you.
That's all for now, folks. Don't forget, give us a 5-star review, hit us up on Instagram at Popapologists, and we will see you next week, live every Wednesday.